English practice from the podcast of SBS News, morning's edition of 23rd May 2024. In this bulletin, Ireland, Norway, and Spain announced plans to recognize a Palestinian state within days. Relieved Australian evacuees return home from New Caledonia, where many more remain stranded. Tottenham losses to Newcastle in front of a bumper crowded at the MCG. Norway, Ireland, and Spain have announced that they will recognize a Palestinian state from May the 28th, sparking excitement from Palestinian leaders and fury from Israel. While three nations hope other European countries will follow suit, France has said it believed now is not the right moment for it to do so. Israel announced it was recalling its envoys to Ireland and Norway for urgent consultations and was expected to do the same with its ambassador to Spain. Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir says this only serves as further evidence of why Hamas must be totally destroyed. The countries that recognized a Palestinian state today are giving a reward to Nubka's Hamas elite forces, murders and abuses, and I say we will not even allow a statement about a Palestinian state, even a statement on a country like that. God forbid. Earlier this month, Australia voted in favor of Palestinians become a full member of the United Nations and remain supportive of a two-state solution in the Middle East. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has called a national election for July the 4th, saying Britons will be able to choose their future in a vote. The announcement ends months of speculation, with governing Conservatives expected to lose to the opposition Labour Party after 14 years in power, according to the opinion polls. Mr. Sunak says he will fight for every vote in the coming weeks to prove that only a Conservative government under his lead will maintain economic stability. Quote, "Now it's the moment for Britain to choose its future, to decide whether we want to build on the progress we have made or risk going back to a square one with no plan and no certainty. Earlier today, I spoke with His Majesty the King to request the dissolution of Parliament. The King has granted this request, and we will have a general election on the 4th of July. French President Emmanuel Macron has touched down in New Caledonia overnight as violence in the wake of controversial electoral reform continues. Mr. Macron will meet with elected officials and local representatives for talks aimed at calming civil unrest and reconstructing areas destroyed in the riots. 6 people have died amid the chaos and almost 300 people have been arrested. Meanwhile, another load of passengers has touched down in Brisbane from Noumea. As efforts to repatriate stranded Australians continue, Australians Emma Franson and Coco Johnson were among the returned passengers. Quote, "We just heard that there had been some riots and demonstrations and that it got quite violent, but we were told that we were safe while we were at our hotel, but not to leave. There was a curfew at 6 p.m. We had a little ocean view of our room and we just kept seeing helicopters and all this stuff flying past us like every hour." Quote, "Australians are beginning to return home after a Singapore Airlines flight where passengers were thrown around and the plane's cabin during a severe bout of turbulence. There were 56 Australians on flight SQ381 to Singapore. The severe turbulence forced the Boeing 777 into an emergency landing in Bangkok. At Sydney Airport, there were emotional reunions. Beverly Mayers was one of the passengers on board and told the Nine Network of the traumatic media audio. pure shock, quote, pure shock, I think, and fear. Is everybody alright? What can you do to help? People's glasses were going everywhere, shoes. My bag went from one end to the other. My son has come to pick me up, and I said, I have to stay the night with you tonight to see my other children and hold them close. Quote. Foreign Minister Penny Wong has told SBS News she will fly to Singapore, where she is expected to be briefed further on the incident. Quote, I will ensure I'm briefed there. I would first extend my condolences to the family and passenger lost. Such a distressing situation, although to all passengers, particularly those who are Australian, who are injured in what sounds like a terrifying event. Quote. The federal government says it's providing consular assistance to affected Australians as investigators from Singapore and the US are deployed to Bangkok. Tottenham manager Ange Postecoglou has received an adoring welcome home to Melbourne, but suffered a loss to Newcastle United on penalties in a friendly at the MCG. James Maddison's goal in the 31st minute after a sustained period of dominance from Spurs broke the deadlock before Alex Isak responded in the 45th. Australian young gun 19-year-old Garang Cole made his Newcastle debut in the 71st minute, and with the scores locked at 1-1 at full-time, the game went straight to penalties, with Newcastle United winning the shootout 5-4. That's all from this podcast and for this practice.